Okay, good. Let's get started. Okay, let's start. Welcome to the Lancaster City Council meeting. City Clerk.
Council Member, Agency Director, Authority Member Molly.
Present.
Mann.
I am present.
Underwood Jacobs. Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Christ.
Present.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Move to excuse Councilwoman, Councilwoman.
Could the
Angela.
council please turn off their phones?
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
We call for a vote.
Oh, we got a vote to count? Okay.
Yeah.
Two.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. David Paul is going to do the invocation. Careful, David.
It is my honor tonight to pray with you all. We all see God in different ways, but however we know God, we know God's mercy and grace and God's help in troubled times. These are certainly troubled times. We go through so much, and yet we fall back on our faith and our belief that there is some greater purpose for our existence. This city is great. I love this city, and we worship and honor God in all we do, and I love that. Thank you.
Okay. Who's doing the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. City Manager, anything to be removed?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have received a communication from the person who appealed on PH1. They have officially withdrawn their appeal, so we would remove PH1, and we apologize for any inconvenience that may cause anyone.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous. Same thing for the, who names these things? City Council Successor Agency Financing Power, oh, it's multiple authorities, right? So we can just do it in one. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Is there,
Second that?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous. So do we have to do the typographical error thing? M2? Okay, good. Thanks. Consent calendar.
We need to pull CC5.
Okay.
And I'll make a motion, we accept the consent calendar as currently comprised, pulling CC5.
Any speaker cards? Just on CC5 or? Okay, good.
I will second that motion.
Okay, let's vote. It's unanimous. Passes. Okay, on CC5, I'm going to recuse myself because Kitty Sato is an employee in our office. Okay?
David Paul.
Mr. Vice Mayor and Council, good evening. I just want to say that I'm in favor of having an active deputy mayor. I go to so many events. I've been to probably 2 or 3 dozen events over the last few months, and we need a presence that is the designate of the mayor. I see you, Vice Mayor, and all our other commissioners, our city staff, especially our city manager, and people notice that, but they also notice the absence of the mayor, so it would be good to have a representative present to quash those concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I need a motion and a second for CC5.
I'll move to adopt CC5, ordinance number 1032.
Second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. NB1.
In B1, any speaker cards?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Bozigian?
Thank you, Mayor Paris, City Council members. Our City Clerk, Ms. Averett, will also join me for the presentation. Before you today is an action that is necessitated by SB 415, which is termed the Voter Participation Rights Act. It was signed by Governor Brown in 2015, and it states in part that a political subdivision, such as the city, shall not hold an election other than on a statewide election date, which is either June or November now, if holding an election on a non-concurrent date, standalone election, had previously resulted in a significant decrease in voter turnout. As defined, we and virtually every other city in California that holds a standalone election will have to hold a consolidated election, because the definition of a significant decrease is a voter turnout for a regularly scheduled election, ours being in April, of less than, that is at least 25% less than the average voter turnout within that city for 4 statewide general elections. Statewide general election is defined as a November election. For the city of Lancaster, the average voter turnout in November of 10, 12, 14, and 16 was 54.2%. The average voter turnout in April 10, 12, 14, and 16 was 14.7%, which is a 39.5% difference. That's what's before you. That's why we need to make a decision. The council needs to make a decision, and it would also have to be ratified by the Board of Supervisors. And you have to do that by January 1st of 2018. So we're bringing that to you. So what are your options? Essentially, you can look at them as 6. You can consolidate the city's election, and Britt will explain what a consolidated election means, in June or November of 2018, June or November of 2020, or June or November of 2022. We are recommending June of 2022, and we're recommending it for the following reasons. Number one, April of 2018 is right around the corner, number one, in election terms, and the county's new voting system will not be ready until 2020. That's the first election they will implement it in. In terms of 2020, as I mentioned, that will be the first year of the new voting system. And also in 2020, if you were to consolidate it, you have 3 members of this council whose terms would be extended either 2 or 7 months. By avoiding 2020, you would all serve the terms that the public exactly elected you for, and not an increase in those terms. So if we look at 2022, as we said, that would allow the incumbents to serve the exact term that you were elected to. Also, in a consolidated election, we're what's called down ballot. We're at the end of the ballot except for a few other special districts and stuff. You have voter fatigue in that. We believe that June would have less voter fatigue than November. The proof, we would look at Palmdale's last election in November of 2016. That was a very hotly contested election, as you well know, for president. Some would say it's still being contested. The turnout in Palmdale for that election overall was 67% and some change. But for the 4 council districts, the turnout was an average of 11.4%, anywhere between 9 in one and 16 in another. And what that shows is just because you're on the ballot in a November election doesn't mean people are going to vote. It shows that people come out for one and not the other. So we've always enjoyed in Lancaster, editorial comment, that the people that vote in April really want to vote for the city council and whatever else we have there. We believe in June would be better than November. At least we'd have a better chance of standing out. One proviso before I turn it over to our city clerk. There is a bill before the legislature now, and if signed by the governor, it would move the state primary election from June to March, which means in this case, if we picked June and the law changed, it would actually be March of 2022, which would shorten whoever got elected's term by 1 month. So those are the options. Britt would be happy to talk to you about what a consolidated election means, and then we're here for any questions and direction from council.
A consolidated election isn't much different for a candidate or the voters compared to a standalone, except for, as Mark said, we've got more of a local feel when you've got a standalone election. Your citizens are going out and they're voting just for your city council members. So your consolidated election means you've got a longer ballot. Everything is run by the county for the most part. The candidates will still come to the city of Lancaster, to the city clerk's office here. We would still process your nomination papers. We'll still handle your candidate filings, your 460s. We'll still verify signatures on your nomination papers. The difference between the LA County or consolidated is that we're not responsible for recruiting 120 plus people for the polling locations. We don't have to secure polling places. It's less of a local feel. The county gets to handle that. The bonus for us on having a standalone election is we actually have our results very, very soon once the election or the polls close. Usually we've got the vote by mails run within 35 to 45 minutes, and then as the polling locations come in, we've got results pretty well locked up before 10 o'clock on election night. Your election results from the county can take up to 30 days. They have up to 30 days per the election code to prepare the certified statement of results. With us, we generally have it, and we're able to swear in your next council at the next city council meeting. Any questions?
David Paul.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, good evening again. Elections are something that are near and dear to me, and I have a few thoughts. Actually, I have been trying to talk about this for about a year and a half, and I want to thank our city clerk and our city attorney for paying attention to that on that night. What I was going to say that night was recommend that our council, in an attempt to be innovative, institute, whether it's legally binding or not, an ordinance that says that we will not certify an election unless 25% of our people vote. Now, that's a pretty low bar, and I think the city deserves to have that sort of a turnout for these council seats. They're very important, and I would love to see us do something like that. As far as June or November, I would love to see our city go out of the way to promote the election, and if we had that 25% bar, which would be an innovation that I don't think anyone else has done in municipalities around here, it would be helpful to create the enthusiasm that I find so gratifying. You know, to come to these meetings, to participate, that is the civic joy that gives people purpose and hope. And I want more people to be involved and to know that there are elections, and the city to do everything it can to let people know that they should come and vote. So that's my proposal, 25% before we certify an election. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Reeves.
Mayor Paris, council staff, I guess I can say I'm an expert on elections. During my life, I've been on the ballot 10 times, 3 times in Los Angeles, three times for the healthcare board in Lancaster, and 4 times for the city council. As you well know, the trend is to have elections in November, and it's also a trend to have district elections. And it's going to happen sooner or later. Someone's going to file a lawsuit against Lancaster, like they may file a lawsuit against the college board and have them expedite the elections to next year. I would like to see us take a giant step and have our two council candidates appear on the November ballot, because all these other entities are going to be voting for their candidates on the November ballot. But we can be innovative when we district up the city. If anyone has examined the map for Palmdale, it looks like a bunch of monsters, the way they created districts.
I take umbrage with that.
I propose for Lancaster that we create rectangular districts from Quartz Hill to the east side, have the city planning department divide up the city from east to west in 4 council districts parallel to one another. And because of the demographics of the city, I think we'll find that all 4 of those districts are going to be pretty even. You're going to have maybe Caucasians mostly on the west, but as you go through the city, the composition of the voters are going to change to the east side and be more minority. So you would have 4 rectangular districts parallel that would comprise everyone, and that would be the nearest thing to retaining a citywide election, but encompassing all the voters. Now, of course, the mayor is going to be citywide. That's just the way it is. That's the way it is in Palmdale. That's the way it has to be. But we can have rectangular parallel districts, and we can also jump the gun and have our 2 council candidates run next November. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to introduce ordinance 1033, that we move it to June or March, whichever the county's primary date is selected, of 2022.
Second that.
May I make a suggestion for the language?
Sure.
That it be June or such other month as the statewide direct primary election may be held per state law?
Yeah.
Yes.
That way, if it's not March, if they amend that proposal that it suddenly becomes April, we don't have to come back to you.
I'm good with that.
I'm second that. Yeah.
Okay, let's vote. It's unanimous. It passes. Are we already done? Okay, council reports. Any?
Yeah. Let's see. AV Fair. We just got done doing our AV Fair. Had a tremendous fair. One of the best that we've ever had. We'd had several events that were actually sold out. So I thought that was very good. So they're doing a very good job at the AV Fair, which I want to remind everyone that the City of Lancaster is now a partner with. Jethawks. Jethawks are in the championship games. So they won their first series. So congratulations to them. I went to Desert Haven. I want to remind everybody how important the Desert Haven auction is and support it. Went to the Fallen Heroes event on 9/11, and our fire department rep and sheriff department rep were both there. Did a wonderful job. Todd, you did a great job doing the Master of Ceremonies. And Gerald, great support from your units out there, so congratulations to that. And today we had a sanitation meeting that lasted 3 minutes. So it was a...
That was a record.
It was a record. It's... we went from that, and reminding everybody that this Friday at the Cali Cafe, formerly Camille's, is going to have their grand opening. That's
What's
what I
the
did.
Cali Cafe?
It was formerly Camille's.
Camille's Spice Restaurant.
How's it different?
We separated from the franchise Camille's. It was 15 years.
Was the venue different?
Slightly different.
Okay,
Enough to keep me out of trouble.
good. Oh, that's right.
Hey, you can't infringe upon trademarks. That's no good. Not in the food service business. Gotta
Good
keep that
idea.
in mind, you know?
So it's the same menu, but different names?
Yes, he had to go to Hawaii to check them out, though.
I heard you were in Hawaii.
Working again.
Don't you ever work?
Working again.
Weren't you two in Hawaii at the same time?
Yeah, I understand. You were over there. I was
yeah.
looking for you. I couldn't find you.
But I was working.
I was looking for you. I couldn't
I
find
had a
you.
golf club in my hand, but I was working.
That's why I couldn't find him.
Raj, were you in Hawaii?
No, I was working locally here.
Okay,
You,
I dug that hole.
Raj, have anything?
Yes, I actually wanted to say that we just celebrated America last Saturday, and staff did a wonderful job, but weather was kind of a little bit crazy, so we had a lot of rain, but I just want to thank staff for they did a great job putting everything together. And I also got to attend the 9/11 ceremony and Desert Haven, so it was good.
Thank you. Mr. Bose, you got anything?
Briefly on our upcoming agenda this next Monday night, Mayor, we'll be taking up your assignment on the Community Benefit Agreement Program Ordinance. We'll start that process beginning next Monday.
I was just told that I can't do that, it's illegal.
Well, you know, notice that folks have agreed to the imposition of that condition.
Really? Good.
It's funny how that works.
Somebody volunteers for something. How can that be?
On new projects, not existing projects.
Right, right.
Well, wait a minute, how do you define a new project versus an existing project?
It's been defined, as I understand it, that if it's a new project, you're an applicant, and if it's an existing project, you're not an applicant, you're a requester of an extension of time, as opposed to applying for a new application.
Are you scamming me, Mark?
Am I kidding you? No.
No, is Mark scamming us on this one?
In this case, no, sir.
Okay.
People have a right to extend their maps, just like with existing conditions. Any new map that comes in will absolutely do that. Jason and I just met with members of the Building Trade Council. Jason's talked to some of the developers, and we'll be setting a meeting up with Mr. Vos and other representatives to come up with a plan going forward, or how we formalize it for the city, so that all new projects will meet what the council required. And that's where the process we're at.
I'm surprised there's not more resistance.
It's only one application at this point.
I think there's a lot of resistance out there because I think it's being misinterpreted that it's prevailing wage. And
Yeah.
it's not prevailing
Difference.
wage that we're talking about. It's hiring local people, qualified local people. That's the intent, at least that's my intent, to hire qualified local people. During the last downturn, 2008, the city was stuck with a lot of different projects that we had to come in and repair and to fix. And there was a lot of unqualified people that actually worked on some of those projects that we had to go in and repair. We're trying to make sure that our citizens aren't stuck with those, but it doesn't necessarily mean prevailing wage. It means locally hired, qualified people if they're available.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, what's wrong with the flexibility of giving somebody choice?
Well, my thinking on it is that houses today are much different than they were 20 years ago in regards to the level of skill required. And that primarily has to do with energy and how
Technology.
we conserve energy and things of that nature. So it's not, it used to be you could just hire somebody who could hold a hammer, and that's no longer the case. You need highly trained people. Okay, we good?
Yep.
Good, thank you. Okay, anything else?
Good.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk?
City manager.
Oh, city manager, did I miss you? I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Two things. One, I want to commend staff. One of the reasons before events that we work with the Sheriff's Department on an incident action plan, that we go over the security protocols, that we have people that make announcements and stuff, is for the protection of the public, vendors, and staff. That came into play this last Saturday, where by a set of circumstances, some of our senior management, including myself, were not at Celebrate America at the time we had the downpour. And I want to particularly commend Rhonda Perez and her staff and Tracy Stewart from the Public Safety Office, because they did exactly what they should do. Work with the Sheriff's Department, clear the street, make sure vendors are safe, make sure the staff is safe, wait the appropriate amount of time till after, you're supposed to wait 15 seconds from thunder to lightning, and then make sure that everything went well. It went exactly the way it should be, including announcing to the public to get off the street. So they did a very good job, and that's why we train. So I want to commend them for the job that they did. We have 2 videos to show you.
What you do? I didn't know that. Did you all know that? You count 15 seconds between, and you're in the danger zone if it's within.
I forget the name of the law, but SB something or other says you're supposed to wait an appropriate time, which is defined. It's actually defined as 10, and we wait 15.
Okay, thanks. Okay. You got some videos?
And I didn't know that either until Saturday, that was the count.
I assigned Marvin to that, and he was supposed to keep it from raining, and he just failed.
Well, it was fireworks.
Oh, that's another thing we learned.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big guy took over with the fireworks.
We learned that it's safer, because people may wonder, why did you shoot fireworks off after the event was done? We also learned, which I didn't know, other people on our staff did, that it's safer to shoot fireworks off no matter what than to disarm them. So that's why everybody got the most intense 4-minute fireworks show at about 8:40.
So Mark, can you go over and explain to the general public at home that we have multiple events during these times, but we're usually staffed. So Celebrate America did have council people, but other council people and yourself went to other events to make sure that the city was represented?
Yeah, that's a good point. But also it speaks to a bigger issue, is that you want to make sure that you have depth on people that are at the event, so that the people there are not only empowered but trained to do what they do. So we always, at every event, there is an incident action report by the Sheriff's Department. Someone's identified as the Sheriff's Department as being the person who will make the call from the Sheriff's Department. On our staff, it's usually Rhonda Perez is the incident person. Either myself or Jason or Toy would be there to represent administration. And from there, there's always someone who's in charge of security. There's always a protocol for what happens in any kind of incident event. There's always where the exit routes are for the Sheriff's Department. And we make sure that the public is never left, or the vendors or the staff, without a plan. Obviously, we don't publicize the incident action plan because it does contain sensitive information.
Thank you.
So who's going to win on the guns versus hoses to Lancaster?
I think the Sheriff's Department always wins, don't they?
Pretty quick.
No, I don't think so.
Would you guys like to make a side bet?
Yeah,
Listen, if you got
So will the captain.
if you're going to pick a side, pick the side with the guns.
Well said. That's exactly it.
Okay.
We do have 2 short videos, if you would.
Good.
The first one promotes some of our Boulevard events that are coming up. We had a press conference last week, so I'd like to start with that.
Thank you so much for joining us today as we announce the City of Lancaster's 2017 Fall event lineup.
I was born here in 1955. There was absolutely nothing to do. They can no longer say that about Lancaster. we had over 100,000 people attend these 4 events last year.
I think it was Rex.
We have the best staff, not just in the Antelope Valley, but in the entire world. This is what a city is supposed to do, is take care of their residents. This is a city that's not afraid to say Merry Christmas.
Come out and join us at any or all of these events on the Boulevard over the next 90 days, and we hope to see you there.
So we're looking forward to the
We're
season.
going into the season, aren't we?
Yeah, and that doesn't promote the other 3 non-Boulevard events, which are Bark at the Park, Field of Drafts, of course, and what's the third one, Mike? I'm forgetting. We have so many, I forgot the third one. What's that? No, there's another one somewhere. Okay. That's the rule, that you should always know what you're going to say before you open your mouth. I break that rule sometimes. Breakfast with Santa. Thank you, Mike. That's the other rule. Make sure you have very smart people you work with. The other one video we have is we obtained some footage of someone rushing the field at a Jethawks game. And before the deputies got there, she was able to throw out a first pitch.
We have with us Successor.
Funny things is we didn't capture, because I happened to be there watching as we were trying to get off the field to start the game. Fran was going down the first base line, and all of a sudden, we didn't know where she was. She made a beeline and went on the field to start to talk to the players who were warming up, which the Jethawks staff quickly got her to get off, and they thought, okay, she's done. And then she stopped in the bullpen to shake each of the bullpen pitchers' hands, and I think give at least one of them advice. So it was a lot of fun.
Thank you very, very much.
Sorry. The other thing is we will have a report, or Troy and Liz will have a report next meeting on the homeless consortium. I don't know if the mayor wants to talk about, the mayor's been very active in setting up a lot of meetings. We just have one today. I don't know, sir, if you want to talk anything about that.
Well, you know, there was a lot of concern about letting the shelter close. And the goal behind that was to get real housing, long-term, with meaningful programs around them. And it looks like it's shaping up that by next 12 months, we will house if we can find the housing, and we're going to have to build some of it, 2,500 people we will take out of the desert and put into long-term housing. That certainly is a much different result than the 100 people a night that we were able to do before. That isn't to say that that was a Herculean task for the people who were performing that, but we're now in a different environment where there's different resources available, and if we move fast and competently, we will redefine how we're treating the homeless. Part of the goal in that is that we will actually have a metrics involved as to what is their well-being throughout this process, and that's with recognized measurements that we can do for them to tell us just what is the state of their well-being. Whatever it's going to be better than living in a hole in the desert. So I'm encouraged. And Toy, just put 2,500 people in real housing. Would you do that? There you go. And then I'll take credit for it, of course. Thanks.
Of course.
Hey, that's how it works.
I know.
The other thing I wanted to deal with is, we just watched Harvey and we just watched Irma cause major destruction. And it occurred to me that I really don't know what's going to happen when we have an earthquake. I mean, I know I got the best fire department and I've got the best sheriff's department in the entire country. And I know that there are plans in place with the city and they practice all the time. But, I mean, I'm the mayor. I know I got to go to City Hall. But if I wasn't the mayor, I really wouldn't know where I was supposed to go or what I was supposed to do. Or, and I think we need to fix that. And so, Raj, you have a new job. A year from now, everyone in the city of Lancaster should know exactly what they're supposed to do when everything collapses. Because rest assured, it's going to collapse. It's not if, it's when. That means we will have no water, we will have no power, and we have to be prepared for that. And I'm mostly concerned that the kids have a plan. I remember when my children were at Bethel, we had a box for them, and in it we had notes, from their parents telling them what was going to happen, when we were going to see them again, to reassure them. I would like to see every child in Lancaster where that is a reality, that we don't have thousands of terrified kids, or we at least minimize it. And that's the start. The other part of that is if we don't, everybody doesn't have a water supply that they're holding on to, it's going to be a while before we can get water to you. About the third day, you're going to wish you had some. The second day. Now there are some things, the water heater has water in it, and there's resources. But I'm not sure that everybody knows that. I mean, I could actually foresee a situation where people are just literally suffering major consequences from thirst when they got 50 gallons right there in the garage. So you understand what I want?
Absolutely, and I thank you for choosing. It's my honor, and I think it's a great idea.
But that means we have to reach out to the people into their homes.
Absolutely.
And have a program. And so you have to work with the fire department, because whatever plan you got, it's a secret. Okay? And it can't be a secret. And that's our fault. That's our fault, because what we've done is we've just relied on you to do it. And that, if anything Harvey has taught us, we can't do that. And I want to know what the sheriff's department plan is to secure resources. Before Costco gets looted, do we have a plan in place to hold those resources? We need to know that.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Both the sheriff department and fire department do have plans that are already there.
I know they have them, but we don't know them.
No, through the community with the organization with CERT. So both of them have CERT employees that they train every year and do that. So if Raj does that with the CERT employees, I think that would be good. Different funding opportunities could come from the city or from the sheriff boosters. We can, provide water and make sure that to add to that plan. So
I'm aware of the CERT program.
okay,
Good. What I want is that every parent knows exactly what they should do when this happens. Okay, I don't think it's a lack of preparation we have, but I do think it's a lack of knowledge.
That is true.
That we haven't conveyed it to everybody.
I think we should have a first meeting soon to get together, everybody, and see what we need to do.
Okay, good. And now that we're what is our title in regards to the excellence?
Because I don't remember exactly, I'm not going to open my mouth this time.
we're the alternative energy capital of the world.
Well, we've been that for a long time,
Well-
but now we have a designation from the state.
All I know is it said
It's
Lancaster
the-
was number one.
That's right, we are.
It's the Alternative Energy Research Center of Excellence for the state of California.
I want to use that. One of the things I want to use that for is I want us to start moving in the direction that if the grid goes down, we're self-sufficient. Okay? Because that is going to be our biggest problem when the earthquake happens. We'll have no power. And that doesn't have to be the case anymore. We could reach a level of self-sufficiency when that happens. And so if there isn't any objection, I'm directing the city managers, both of you, to make that a reality. All right? Thank you. And we will be having an announcement in regards to that next month.
Mayor Paris, if I may share, I appreciate you taking the time to do that. I have property in Beaumont, Texas, and if you're aware, they were the second city that got hit after Houston. And what's really crazy is, they were inundated with flooding, and unfortunately, on the first day, they lost their city water supply. And it's a municipality. Somebody else was responsible for it, but here, what's crazy, their biggest issue was flooding and no water. And, the things that we take for granted, and then the stuff that we have to endure. So I think that your call to action is very timely, and it's unfortunate things happen. And then the second thing you said is take a look at what's going on in Florida right now. I think if I heard it right, there were well over 1 million people without power. Is that what it was? So the things that we take for granted after catastrophe happens, then anyway, I think good that we make some good plans.
Could the sanitation district, the purple pipe water, is that actually potable?
The purple pipe?
Yeah. I mean, can you actually drink it if we had to?
No.
No.
What would it take to be able to do that?
Well,
Be some minor well, not minor, but you could make some modifications at the plant, and you could drink it.
We should think about that.
Yeah, there are also, we make sure all of our employees have an opportunity to buy supplies at the cheapest rate possible. They also sell things which are very good, which are like $20 filters. People take backpacking and
Correct.
camping and stuff.
Correct.
Those are always good to have because then you can filter virtually any water that you have for safety, including that.
What's going to happen is after we take care of the drinking needs, to hydrate people, if we don't restore water, people move. Because if you can't shower, you move. And you don't come back, is what they've seen in New Orleans. Being able to take a shower is a really big deal after a crisis. And that aqueduct will have at least 6 to 8 breaks that will take at least 6 months to a year to fix. So there's going to be a huge water shortage. And I'm just thinking, how do we prepare for it now? Because I'd hate to see half our population disappear, What?
One of the things, I'm glad you mentioned that, one of the things that we've been encouraged with is with the water master and some of the cooperation with the different water districts around the valley, in terms of being able to use underground reservoirs and underground storage for water supply, and being able to not be so dependent on just the aqueduct or one set of delivery, but actually having wells that you can draw out of and stuff. And I think that's going to be sort of a hidden resource for an emergency, because it, just like you said, be off the grid if you're off the aqueduct, and you can deal with it in that way. And that's all because of the cooperation we've seen in the last couple of years with our water agencies.
Good. And my final piece of advice is keep your shoes next to the bed, because when you get up and you start walking around the house, you don't want your feet cut up, because all your windows will have broken. Okay?
Can I make one more thing while we're talking about the water? Can we get a report from the status on the Cal Water issue in that area? Can we get a report from our state legislatures to tell us what's happening with those people, exactly how they're going to try to fix this problem and what we're doing about it?
We could agendize for the next council meeting if you'd like in that regard. We have one of our state, a representative here today, I think one of them was over there, and we can talk to the other one. Would you like that at the next meeting?
The next meeting is fine, but I just think that the citizens need to know what has taken place, what is taking place, and what we're doing about it, and what their options are.
Okay. We will schedule that for September 26th.
Thank you.
Pending availability of the state reps.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk.
This is the time to address the City Council agency and authority on non-agendized matters. Speaker cards can be found on the back table of the council chambers. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. State law prohibits the City Council from taking action on items not on the agenda, and your matter may be referred to the city manager. Thank you.
Perry Creedle.
Good evening, Your Honor.
How are you?
At the last meeting, after the shelter closed down, you mentioned that you were considering hiring a deputy mayor of employment for the applicant and other applicants in the future. And I'd like to know if you decide whether you're going to appoint someone or not. I'm practically already doing this here by myself as it is now.
I will be appointing somebody. We haven't decided who. You know, have you put in an application?
I've put in an application already.
Good. When is it scheduled to do that?
At the September 26th meeting, which is 2 weeks from today.
Okay, good. We'll make a decision by then, okay?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Torino Knuckleberger? Did I say that right?
Toriano.
Okay.
Toriano Knuckleberger.
Okay.
I'd like to speak for a moment about my daughter's kidnapping and abuse. My daughter was kidnapped by Shirley Black, who was director of the Self-Help Center, worked in the Lancaster Sheriff's Department. I spoke here at the Justice Commission last month, and I was given a whole bunch of promises by the Sheriff's Department and other members, also your brother, sir, told me that he would help find my daughter because it's been 4 years. I still don't know where she is. My daughter was taken by Shirley Black, and the city of Lancaster. Let me just go through this because I'm short on the time. I'm just going to go over the names of the people that I'm asking the mayor to start an investigation. Shirley Black, she kidnapped and sexually assaulted my daughter, Messiah Browning. Myra Rodriguez, she was the forensic nurse at the AV hospital. She writes a false nurse's report claiming that my daughter had been getting raped for 4 years. Karita Martin, she's a DCFS case manager, covers up what happened to my daughter and changed court's documents. Elizabeth Woods, DCFS investigator, covered up what happened to my daughter, ignores vital evidence, and goes as far as to alter pictures that my daughter drew, and drew people having sex on the pictures that my daughter drew. Her name is Elizabeth Woods. Gabriel Fernandez was the little young boy that died. He died 1 week after my daughter was taken. So everything went haywire in the city. The DCFS also went on strike. Elizabeth Payton speaks openly on the record and speaks in support of me that Shirley had abused my daughter. Susan Velasquez, the Special Victims Unit, tells Shirley Black to her face, "Ma'am, we feel that you're making the little girl say this stuff," and then lets my daughter leave with Shirley to get further abused. Aaron Jepson, who was my appointed dependency court attorney, He appoints me a legal item to make all my legal decisions in court. Davion Mitchell, who is the sitting superior judge. Davion Mitchell and Deputy DA Craig Clefman. Major Brady violations because they didn't let me know until after I pled guilty to the threat that Shirley had did this stuff to my daughter. I went to trial and I received a hung jury. They only told me what happened after the trial. After trial and after I pled no contest to the threat, then they told me, oh yeah, she's coaching your daughter to say that you raped her, and she took your daughter, and this was the victim. So I threatened the victim, the kidnapper. Susan P. Dale is the legal item who helped cover up what happened to my daughter. Robert Nadler, who is the criminal court attorney, he came in and told me that if I pled no contest, then I would get out that day, pretend like I didn't know I was getting out that day, and then have my daughter, and I'd be able to save my daughter. Detective Tanner lied under oath and claimed that he didn't know how to record a phone call. And finally, sir, you, RX Paris. I received a letter. I contacted your legal agency, sir, and I spoke to them and said, hey, Shirley Black did this to me. I received a letter from you, sir, that has your letterhead and your signature on it, referring me to John Nolan and Roy Huntsman. I hired those attorneys to sue the city, sue the sheriff's department, and sue the DCFS. Those attorneys, can I have one more minute? I'm at the end. Those attorneys filed my lawsuit and never served the people that I was suing. When I found out what they did, I was thrown back in prison and sentenced to 8 years. And I beat that also, sir. So I'm asking for an investigation into what happened to my daughter. And I'm asking for Shirley Black to be arrested. That's all. If you can do anything for me, sir.
No,
No, you can't?
I can't. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. At least we have a record that you haven't done it. And you can't say that you didn't know. Thank you, sir.
Dwayne Spolstra?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Hi.
I'm a business owner here in Lancaster, within a half mile of where we're sitting right now, and I'd like to address the homeless situation that is affecting my business in a personal way. On the south side of my building on Yucca Avenue, I've had 2 fires in the last 2 months, set by who knows who, but the most recent one was last Friday. Fire department put it out. Thank you very much. I'd like to just make a statement. I pulled this out of the San Diego newspaper, dated yesterday. It says, after 15 die in hepatitis outbreak, San Diego begins sanitary street washing to help control the spread. I'm just jumping through the article. To help control the spread of disease, 15 people died and nearly 300 were hospitalized. Fecally contaminated environment. Outbreak has now produced nearly 400 confirmed cases. And I have a business here in town. I have homeless on the south side of my building, and it's not appropriate. If I use some of the catchphrases that might spur a little bit more action, children walk past my building on the way to school, and I can attest that there is a fecally, good, they phrased it well here, fecally contaminated environment within 47 feet from my front door. And I think that that's not appropriate in this city, that the business community is affected at the, discussion, questions, anything. I'm just looking for relief. Yeah.
What have you done up until now? I mean, coming to the council with this is pretty...
I was requested by, I believe her name, Scott, what's her name? I believe it's Beverly, up in probably directly behind this wall. I've spoken with Public Works, Code Enforcement. I've just in the last 3 weeks, it really I've been here had my business here for a little over 11 years, and in the last 2 months since the first fire on the south side of my building, I've made phone calls, spoke with Lee Durecchio yesterday, and he was very helpful. Okay, I guess I'm done.
Okay.
No, 37. Anyway, where's Lee?
Hi, Dwayne.
So are these people living there?
Yes, sir.
Would you take care of that, please?
Yes. I think we're already on it with the
I
sheriff's
can show you a picture right now of the south side of my building. It is,
You know, one of the things I teach my lawyers is when you've won. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Good. Fran.
Thank you, Mark. I got some answers for you.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fran Saras, and thank you very much for that video. It was quite an exciting day for me. Thank you again. But on the subjects that you were just speaking of, I have a few, but mostly I have here at our senior center here in Lancaster, it says it's time to prepare. Come to a series of emergency preparedness classes. There's going to be 5 classes. It's going to be starting, the first one is October the 12th from 9 to 10:30. And we're going to be having that at the senior center. If you'd like to have it, this copy here, you may. They're going to be 5 classes, and they're going to show us on preparedness for earthquake, what to do and how, especially, not only for seniors, everybody's invited.
Good.
So you're
We'll
welcome
come.
to have it.
If we're in town, we'll come.
Get you started, mister. Okay. Also, real quick, so I have a lot of things. I went to the last meeting last week on the homeless, and I brought up, because they were talking about buildings and apartments, but then I brought up, how about using mobile homes? They're easy to move, they're not as expensive as, but no. Okay, forget that one. I also wanted to say, this morning at the scene.
But we are going to use modulars.
Modulars?
But you're not going to know they're modulars.
Well, okay, well.
I mean, they're doing such amazing stuff right now. Okay.
So this morning too, at the supervisors meeting, I just wanted to bring up about the the Zika virus, the Western Nile virus. Dr. Barbara Farrell, she's the director of public health, to make sure that not to leave standing water, as we all know, because between the mosquitoes are prevalent between March to November, so they're not quite gone yet. And she did suggest that you wear long pants and long sleeve shirts, especially they seem to attack mostly in the early morning or in the evening. And what else do I have here? Oh, by the way, the fair was wonderful. It's been the best that I've ever seen. It was huge. There was a lot to do, a lot to see. It was great. And the homeless consortium on September the 18th, I don't know, you probably already know, it's going to be held at Joe Walker's Middle School. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Fran. You really have done an amazing thing with the fair. I mean, I know there's a lot of people involved, but you are the point of the spear.
It is, it's good. It's the entire community's coming together. We did involve some representatives from the city of Palmdale, so we brought the entire community together. So it is working.
So who in Palmdale are we working with?
It was Debbie Dino from the IBEW. So she helped us put together a lot of representatives from the city of Palmdale. So we were able to bring that into it. They did a lot of sponsorships. We were able to get a lot more quality events with different sponsorships that we got. So thanks to, making it a true community event.
Thank you. Anita Marie Bordelme? Hi, how are you?
I'm okay, a little nervous. I have a request. I don't even know if you can help me. I'm dealing with a criminal case that was brought up against me based on pure lies. I came and Lee said that he would at least look at my evidence. I was actually assaulted by a Lancaster sheriff's officer. There's a lot of details that I don't really think I need to get into, but this is my thing. I don't have a criminal record. I didn't do what I was accused of. I believe in the Constitution and I believe in a fair trial. Unfortunately, in my case, they're trying to deny me a fair trial by denying me witnesses that actually saw this man come at me to physically harm me. I don't know much of the law, but in my investigating on the law, they're completely wrong and the charges should have already been dropped. And the thing is, you know, I would like to get to the bottom, you know, of the evidence. I had to sue this Lancaster sheriff in a small claims suit just to try to get the truth out. I was even taken to the hospital. I'm a diabetic. I'm not saying that the officer knew everything that was going on that day. However, on-site investigation wasn't done. I have a camera out in my house. It was hooked up. If he would have just looked at half of the evidence, he would have seen that this man that tried to attack me on my property was actually the one that started the problem. So I don't know what to do at this point. I'm facing criminal charges. I've never, ever came at anyone aggressively. I've gotten rude, don't get me wrong, never threatened anyone except for lawsuits or restraining orders. I was given another attorney by Stephen Franklin, and still they're just like keep telling me this, that, and the other, and I'm not pleading to something I did not do. So I don't know if you can help me. I was a little upset with Lee because he did promise me that he would investigate or at least look at my evidence. I mean, the Constitution is supposed to be two-sided. I understand the DA is to prosecute, but I'm entitled to a fair trial, and I don't believe I'm getting it.
You are entitled to a fair trial. The concern I would have is while criminal charges are pending, it's not our
jurisdiction.
Well, we really don't have the authority to intercede. Interceding, I think, would be the worst thing we could do on an overall basis for the city while charges are pending. Once those charges aren't pending, we'll certainly make certain that the Sheriff's Department gets an unbiased investigator to look at what happened. But we can't, you know, we can't even ask for, I mean, I'm unwilling to ask for that.
That's fine.
While criminal charges are pending.
That's fine. And just so, you know, City Council knows, in the Lancaster Sheriff's Station, I'm suing about and two of them are sergeants in small claims court because my case isn't like his. However, there are familiarities and human trafficking involved. So just so you know where to find them.
I get it. I do a lot of suing.
Yeah, you do. Thank you for your time, though. I do appreciate the lighting and the fact that you do have an open, you know, agenda where we can come and at least voice our opinion, because not everybody does. So I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Reeves.
Mayor Paris, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank staff for an excellent job today. They repaired a traffic signal out at Low Tree and Avenue J, and they also checked on a man who was dropping parts of a trailer in the street on West Avenue J9. So thank you, staff. My primary reason for coming tonight was earthquakes. Thank you very much, Mayor Paris. And at the last meeting of the Antelope Valley Healthcare District Board of Directors, I spoke to the board about this very subject. And as you well know, Palmdale Regional is built on the other side of a fault line. And you may not know that there's a couple of towers at AV Hospital that are 50 and 60 years old that need to be earthquake-proofed. So therefore, it is the possibility, if we have a quake, a major quake, we will not have any medical facilities in Lancaster or the Antelope Valley. Across the street from the hospital, it's vacant land. It's owned, and areas around the hospital, it's vacant land. It's owned by the city, private people, and by the hospital. I recommended prior to this last meeting to the head of Electo, who are running the hospital, that they clear that land across from the hospital, put some grass on it. So in the eventuality, if the buildings are down at Palmdale Regional and Antelope Valley, which is a great possibility, we have a place to stage and put up tents to save people's lives. Now, Mr. Reddy, who was ran 9 hospitals as the head of Electo, thought it was a good idea, but he wanted to clear the land in the back of the hospital near the ER, which is, when you think about it, it's insane because the buildings are going to be damaged. So the best possibility is to clear the land across the street on 15th Street, put some grass there. You're going to have to grade it anyway eventually for Medical Main Street. Why not do it now? So we have a staging area for tents. Now, I was told by a nurse that in back of the hospital they have food and water stored. So they have supplies to take care of their patients and maybe some of the community. And we can't block 15th Street West because we need vehicles to be able to come back and forth. So I pleaded with the board to clear that land across the street so we can have a staging area when our medical facilities are down, because if we don't, people are going to die. And they listened to me, and they have the funds to do it. And I also asked them to work with the city on this. They seem to be, healthcare district was working with the city really well for a while, and now they're off on their own ideas. So that's my take on it, and I hope the city would consider working with the hospital on doing something about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. That's it. Do we have a closed session today? Okay, great. Any comments from the council? We're good to go? Okay. The City Council will adjourn in memory of Irma Babe Story. Babe, at 95, was the last survivor of 3 Antelope Valley women who were among the women Air Force Service pilots who performed various duties during World War II so that men would be freed up to fly in combat. She is the recipient of a Congressional Gold Medal, World War II Victory Medal, and World War II American Campaign Medal. Babe came to Lancaster at age 1 and learned to fly in a pilot training program through Antelope Valley Junior College and the Antelope Valley Flying Service, which was owned by Florence Poncho Barnes. After the WASPs were deactivated in 1944, Babe continued flying as an instructor in Pennsylvania, flew charter flights, and managed the Lancaster Airport for a crop dusting company. She became a pilot for an electrical contracting company and spent 32 years working in government construction, such as space launch facilities, hangars, and runways. She leaves behind a sister and many nieces and nephews. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 26, 2017 at 5 p.m. Carol, I'm coming home. Sheila.